We have here a few halachas that are not so well understood. So let's read this. The first one over here is where the Shulchan Aruch says uh, you could do your shalosh shuddis with matzah shira. That's Rabbi Tom's opinion. We also saw that the Gra says over here, no, that's not really how it works. Okay, and how he says that the Iker is over here, which is like the Zohar and the Rambam, that there's no way you could actually have a third Sabbath meal at the right time on the Shabbos afternoon because even matzah shira is forbidden. I saw Rabbi Bleich wrote that the night of Shabbos you shouldn't use matzah, and I don't know why he said that. The prohibition of eating matzah is not 30 days before Passover. It's only the day before Passover and from dawn. And some say from after Bir Chametz time. The Vilna Gaon's trying to show you, no, it's all day from dawn until Passover begins. You're not supposed to eat matzah. So that night, the night of Shabbos, it's okay to eat chametz and matzah, as the child will say. On all other nights, we eat chametz and matzah. Tonight, just matzah. On all other nights, including last night, we ate chametz and matzah. So you could have your chametz, you could have your matzah. I don't know why he is telling people this chumrah, don't eat matzah leil Shabbos. However, in the morning, for your second meal, your Sabbath meal, you have to eat chametz because the matzah is now forbidden. Included in this is the basic idea that we discussed last year, pointing out in the Rambam, the way the Rambam understands the sugya, you don't eat any form of matzah before Passover, not so that you have an appetite for the matzah. That's not what he says. He says you're not supposed to eat matzah the day before Pesach so that there's a hecker, so that the eating of the matzah that night stands out. So you refrain from matzah all day. Now there's a hecker that you're eating it for a mitzvah tonight. Whereas the fact that you're not supposed to eat anything Erev Pesach in the afternoon, you're supposed to sort of starve yourself if you can, so that you eat matzah l'te'avon. But refraining specifically from matzah is not so that you eat matzah for the mitzvah l'te'avon with an appetite. Look at the Rambam there. That backs up what the Vilna Gaon is saying over here. Okay? People get that confused. There are some who would say that you don't eat matzah Erev Pesach so that you have matzah. You eat matzah with the te'avon leil Pesach. There's a Tosafistic idea like that, which the Vilna Gaon rejects. Over here, he points out something that Tov Levar B'Erev Shabbos Kodem Chatzos Yedish Levoy Litot B'Shar Shanim. Okay, this is an idea also that's not a strict halacha. What are you going to do with the chametz on Erev Pesach, Erev Shabbos? We're going to have a ceremonial burning, a destruction of the chametz. But technically speaking, right after you throw that bread into the fire, so you could go home and have a sandwich. And not only that, you're going to go home Leil Shabbos and have some nice, delicious challahs for the Sabbath meal. So when we're burning the chametz next Friday morning, that's only symbolic. It is not required. It's not a mitzvah. The real bittul chametz will be, like the Ramah says, the bittul, okay, the nullification in the mind on the Sabbath day. And that's where we get over here. What do you do with the chametz? And the Shulchan Aruch is telling you, shake out the tablecloth after that Sabbath meal in the morning and get rid of the chametz somehow. Now, in a normal year, the Mishnah says how you dispose of the chametz. You burn it, you grind it up, throw it to the wind, or throw it into the sea. Technically speaking, you don't even need to do that. One thing is you sell it to the Gentile, a real sale, if he so chooses, or you give it to him as a gift, or you just throw it somewhere else, throw it in the garbage. So those are all perfectly legitimate ways. Complete hefker. Leaving your chametz in a bag at the dumpster is totally fine, even in a regular year. You don't necessarily have to burn it. As a matter of fact, after nearly having a few of the houses in our neighborhood burned down by an overzealous neighbor who wanted to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Dafka burning his chametz in his backyard on Erev Pesach, I think that this is even better. Okay? In the olden days, fires were a matter of fact. We don't have large open flames going anywhere. That's how you cook things. That's how you disposed of things in the olden days. That's how you needed to. But nowadays, we do not incinerate things. Thank God. And it's not so good for the air quality. We don't have to burn wood in our houses to keep ourselves warm, so it doesn't hurt our throats and ruin our voices. No, that's not. No, I've had this now for about 2 months. So you don't need to do this. You don't need to do it ever. And the the Shulchan Aruch continues. This is from the Rambam. Take the leftover stuff. Kofel love kli means cover it with something, put in a bag, and then motzi yom tov, and then do your beer chametz. Now over here, the Mishnah Berurah brings something that is greatly misunderstood. I'm going to put on the Mishnah Berurah over here. There's the Mishnah Berurah. Come on, Mishnah Berurah over here. Good. Mishnah Berurah mentions. Where does he say it over here? Where is it? He mentions it. This is different than my printed version. I thought it was over here. Okay, here it is. Sorry, it did show up here. So, what do they say here? I saw a guy that says, take your chametz and throw it in the toilet. And I saw plumbers who say, stop throwing your bread down the toilet and causing clogs on Shabbos going into Yontif, because then you can't fix it. A lot of things are not meant to go into the toilet. So why did the rabbi tell me to throw it in the toilet? I would have told you, throw it in the dumpster. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah meant. Why? What does the Mishnah Berurah say? It says, Umayri deleth kuti o kelev litnolo. The Shulchan Aruch said, just cover up the chametz, say bittul chametz, and it's nullified, and dispose of it after Yontif in the normal way. So he says it's because you don't have your friendly neighbor to whom to give it. Oh no, someone's lost here. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, please. Hey. Sorry to see your message, but I'm already, talking into the camera and stuff. So this is where we are. So the Mishnah Berurah continues, or you could give it to your dog to eat. The imlavachi avshek varavu arba shot omid b'shachamishit yital telo vitin lahem. Okay, because if you don't have these things, so even though 4 hours have passed, and now you're in the 5th hour. When is the 5th hour? Basically, the time when you can't eat the chametz, but you're supposed to be disposing of it. So you take it somewhere and you give it to them. And he also says, "Mutter l'taltula shlichu leveit hakisei im yesh lo beit hakisei bechatzero." You can throw it into the beis hakisei if you have one in your chutzner. What is he talking about here? So people translate beis hakisei as the toilet because we're familiar with our, thank God, modern plumbing, where everybody has 1 or 2 toilets, 3 in his mansion, and everything he throws down there, he presses the button, water goes down, it's gone, never have to think about it. And that's how we do things. But people didn't have such a convenience back in the day. The flush toilets were new in, let's say, the most advanced civilization up to that point, let's say Victorian London. So that's when they started this whole idea, and even then they were polluting their rivers with this. And it didn't make its way to Eastern Europe until much later. And Palestine only got plumbing and these types of things in the mandatory period. Okay, so the Chafetz Chaim, most of his life, never saw a flush toilet. Okay, Beis HaKisei meant an outhouse, a hole in the ground. It was a maven yoven if you haven't seen one. That's what he's talking about. And Chutzner means it's within a Rishus Yachid, such that there is no halachic problem of taking the chametz and throwing it into the outhouse. In our equivalence, this would be a dumpster. He's throwing it somewhere where you throw the garbage. That's the Beis HaKisei. In the old days, by the way, they didn't have dumpsters or garbage dumps for that matter. They didn't have anything that wasn't biodegradable. So what did you do with garbage? Well, basically scraps you gave to your barnyard animals. You gave it to your chickens, or if you were lucky enough to have any livestock, you gave it to them. That's vegetables. And everything else, there was a garbage heap beyond where the houses were. And it mostly didn't become these massive monstrosities that we have in the Western world now, landfills, because there were all sorts of scavengers picking at it. Everything was biodegrading really fast. People didn't have such large piles of garbage like they do now that we have plastics and such wasteful behaviors like we do in the Western world. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. So the Mishnah Berurah didn't mean throw your bagel down the toilet and clog your toilet. He meant go outside the house somewhere and throw it where you have all the refuse. Okay, which is the equivalent of our dumpster nowadays. As long as you're not being Machal Shabbos by taking your chametz from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. If you have a proper Eruv, so it would be totally kosher to take out the garbage, just like we do from our houses on Shabbos within the Eruv. That's what he's talking about. So someone asked me this last night, and I was told I have to throw it in the toilet. No, you do not. The Mishnah Berurah was using the outhouse as an example, and our equivalent would be a dumpster. Secondly, uh, you don't have to this year just totally destroy it. We saw the Shulchan Aruch brings like from the Rambam. You could technically just store your chametz, tie it up in a bag, and leave it for disposal after Yontif. Okay, so you don't have to throw it in the toilet. Sometimes it's not wise to do so, and you never have an obligation to actually burn your chametz or grind it up and scatter it to the wind or throw it into the sea. Okay, that's not how it works. The main point is to first remove it from your mind, complete nullification of the chametz, and then make sure it's not anywhere where it could cause you a problem.